Amazon owes you boatloads of money, and most brands don't understand how severe this is. Last year alone, we recovered $2.1 million in reimbursements from Amazon, and in this video, I'll show you how to spot these leakages and how to recover them. My name is Jassim Isa. I'm the CEO and founder of Voadera, an Amazon e-commerce marketplace company that generates hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. In this video, I'll go over the significance of reimbursements, the various buckets or types of reimbursements Amazon offers, how to recover these reimbursements, and best practices to keep in mind to maximize this amount. Make sure to stick around because I'm actually going to jump on my laptop soon and go over specific KPIs and benchmarks that we had for our business and outlining each one specifically. What are reimbursements and why is it so important to be vigilant about them? High level, reimbursements are just funds that Amazon basically pays us sellers for products that they lost. And keep in mind, this is not only applicable to 3P sellers. If you're 1P and you're selling vendor central, you also have reimbursements that you can collect from Amazon. This is for lost inventory. I'm going to get into the buckets later, but it's just money that Amazon pays you for mishandling, damaging, losing inventory, and I'll get into the specific buckets later, as I mentioned. The reason this is so important is that it could vary anywhere from 2 to 3% of your overall revenue. So imagine if you're a brand doing $5 million a year, 2 to 3% of that, what is that? That's around 100 to 150 grand a year. Imagine what that could do for you in ads. If you had, let's say, a 3 or 4 ROAS on that, which is very common. So 150 times 3, let's just say it's on the higher end of that. 150, that's $450,000 in sales that you could get for free and free advertising money that you could recover from Amazon. And the reason you have to be so vigilant about this is actually two things. Is that Amazon doesn't always reimburse you for everything, as I'll mention later. And even when they do reimburse you, sometimes and oftentimes they're not reimbursing you the appropriate amount. So you have to not only fight to make sure that everything is reimbursed, but you also have to make sure it's at the appropriate amount that you were looking for, basically. So now, for the next section, let's get into the nitty-gritty, basically. Let's go over the reimbursement buckets, each one, and what to expect from them. So over here we have on the screen, I took a sample from week 1 of quarter. So this is a sample of a week from quarter 1 of 2025 and a sample of Q2. So we can have some variance. And then what I did is I divided it by the amount of revenue from that week. So that week, 2%. So let's say, for example, we're selling on average $2 million a week, right? So 2% came back that week from the 2 million. So what would that be? 1% of 2 million is 20 grand. So that's around 40 grand in reimbursements right here this week. This week was a little bit more. So it was around 50 grand actually, 2.5%. So this is just, sorry, I'm just trying to do quick math on over here. So you can see that how significant it is basically. So this is the percent of reimbursement. And then from that reimbursement, right? So I want to color these in a different color. From that reimbursement, what made up this 2%? So 32% of this 2% came from customer returns. So customer returns, and I kind of wrote a description for each one as we went through them. I had the team, but customer returns is when customers return stuff that's damaged, it's not in the appropriate condition. Those are various categories. A lot of this, thankfully, a lot of this is usually automatically reimbursed, and it's reimbursed at fair amounts. So this is one that Amazon automatically reimburses for often, but you just still have to make sure, and I'll explain how to see what's reimbursed and what's not in the next section. So stick with me. So you can see for the other week it was 27% of the obviously 2.5%. So the way to think about this is, let's just say this was 50 grand, this one right here. So it would be 27%, so 0.27 times, 0.27 times 50. So 13 grand and $500 came from this section here. And then each percentage likewise. So I hope that makes sense. So for the next section, we have customer service issues. So what's customer service issues? So this happens when a customer reports a bad experience, like late responses, incorrect items, information, damaged item or not delivered. We should check the customer message quickly and open a claim with Amazon to get a reimbursement. So this is where, for example, customer service issue, a customer buys something, they never received the item. We had it in FBA, Amazon never shipped it out. So obviously that's not our fault. So we have to fight Amazon to make sure that we're getting that reimbursement. Then the next section, we have damaged inbound. So this happens when items arrive damaged at the fulfillment center during shipping or receiving. We should check the FBA shipment, make sure the inventory ledger of Amazon is responsible. We need to open a case to request reimbursement. Obviously, same thing as before. You can see this is not a significant one. That it doesn't usually arrive damaged inbound. What happens is arrived as lost inbound, which is somewhere later. There it is. So usually these, Amazon doesn't classify anything as damaged, it's put it under lost because basically that's their classification. So you can see how significant this one is, and we'll get into that later. So damaged outbound, this is damage going to the customer, basically. You can see it's also a small portion. Damaged warehouse, so this is damaged Amazon receives it. This is a significant amount. They damage it while it's in their warehouse. So this is something that as they're kind of putting it away, it falls. Let's say you have a glass, it falls, it shatters, it's damaged warehouse. It gets classified as that. Fee correction. So this is something also used to be known as Cubiscan. You can also, this is a quick kind of tab, but you can see here, Amazon also has the various classifications. One thing I'd recommend is using the search. If you type in, I'm going to type in a few later, I'm going to reference, you can use this search. You can find other stuff as well. But they also have some of the descriptions here as well. And a lot of these are from Amazon. So then general adjustments, we also have, it's not that significant. So this is like miscellaneous buckets that they have for Amazon. Lost inbound, this is significant. So we sent to Amazon 1,000 items. They received 800 items. So those 200 items were lost inbound. We sent them, they never received them. So this is actually the one that we're having to fight the most. This one, another one. So this is where we have to provide the invoices that we sent them. We provide the tracking IDs that we sent them, the FTL tracking carrier number, all that kind of stuff to make sure that we get reimbursed for these lost inbound. You can see this week it was extremely significant. So we said, let's say it was 50 grand, 25 grand came from the lost inbound. So it's a very significant number and one that we're having to fight frequently. Lost outbound, not as much. So this is where it's lost to the way to the customer. Lost warehouse, also you can see significant as well. So they received it, it was lost in the warehouse. So the reason that we have this one, we don't have to provide as much documentation for, because Amazon acknowledged they received it. So we only have to provide documentation of how much the item cost. This one, sometimes Amazon doesn't acknowledge it, like you never sent it. So we have to send proof, whether we have tracking IDs on our loading docks. We have 5 warehouses, each one has a loading dock. So we have cameras that prove that we sent it out. So we go over and send the footage, send the pro number, the bill of lading, BOL, all that kind of stuff to prove that it was sent in for the lost inbound. And obviously we're doing this on behalf of our partners, and a lot of them didn't realize all these leakages that happened. One of the partners, Ross, actually spoke to, he thought that he never even looked into reimbursement. He was getting the default, but lost inbound, for example, something he never fought. And he turns out he had like around 80K worth of reimbursements that he never claimed for. And unfortunately, the look back window, I think they reduced it recently, it's only 90 days. So if it's 90 days post the window that you can open it in, then good luck getting it back. Amazon's going to fight tooth and nail to not get it back. Prime wardrobe, this is, I think, try before you buy, so it's not applicable for us. You can see 0%. Payments return, not that relevant either. Reimbursement reversal, this is very crucial. So this is where Amazon, they say something, for example, is lost at the warehouse, but then 2 weeks later they find it. What they do is they give you they take away the money they gave you, but instead they're basically giving you the unit that they found. And sometimes it's a year or two later. Sometimes it's extremely ridiculous. It is what it is. That's also something here you have to be very careful with the reimbursement service provider. If you're using a tool, we do ours a lot of internally, but if you are using a tool that they're reimbursing you for the reimbursement reversal, so I know it's still like a loop, but basically, if let's say an item $100 cost, it was lost, and the reimbursement tool, sometimes they charge 15%, they got you the $100 back. So they give you $85, they charge you $15, right? But then let's say Amazon finds the item a few weeks later, the Amazon takes the $100, but you only got 85. Is your reimbursement program reimbursing you for that $15? Also, this is where we found partners, they didn't know that they lost tens of thousands of dollars because they were using a default reimbursement program. They weren't monitoring what it's doing. And we had someone actually lose around 13 grand that we had to open a claim with the reimbursement service. Like, listen, you said you were going to reimburse us, you're going to do a clawback. That's what they call it. And you didn't. So they basically kept the money by them, even though Amazon took the money back. So they took, because a lot of them charge a commission basis, not a fixed fee. So obviously for us, it's all included within our like distributor buy sell model, but that's just something to keep in mind as well if you're using a software. Return adjustment. So this is where if a customer returns it, they don't return it, it's not significant either. Return to store, tax orders. So this is tax returns, also small stuff. This is internal, so non-delivered for us. But one that I wanted to highlight significantly was customer returns warehouse claims. This is one that a lot of people don't fight enough on. And this is one that Amazon does not give at all by default automatically. You have to fight tooth and nail for these. And what this is, you sell something. For example, I sold this iPhone to a customer. They send me back a Chinese TriPhone or whatever, something like that, something fake. So we have to take a picture for Amazon. We take a picture with the LPN. We tell them we sent this, we got this back. We expect a reimbursement for the difference. And then this is one that we have to fight tooth and nail. So the first time they're going to auto reject us, then you have to go again, again, again. Usually after 3 or 4 tries of going through the cases, we get it back. But this is one that a lot of people don't even do at all. Customers are returning you fraudulent items. Either they're returning the fake brand, or what they do is they wear it for a dress or occasion. They tear through it and they send it back. If it's clothes, if it's a tool, they let's say they order the tool from you, they get the new one, they send you back their old used one from your brand. So you have to make sure you're vigilant, you're claiming these, and this alone, I mean, 1% for us, let's just say over here was 4%. 50 grand was the total amount. So what's 4% of 50 grand? 1% is 500. So it's $2,000 in 1 week of customer returns. What's $2,000? That's basically an FTE. I mean, what is that? That's more than FTE actually. That's twice the median income in the US. So 2 times 50 grand, 2 grand times 52 weeks, that's 104 grand a year on 1 week. Obviously, the week before was much less. It was 500 bucks, but still that's significant, obviously. So we have people at our warehouses taking pictures for our partners, making sure that we get this money back, basically. And then we have the Canadian marketplace and Mexican marketplace. We have other also marketplaces like WFS. We don't have it here. This is mainly for Amazon, but also WFS Walmart. There's reimbursements for them as well. Target, not yet. They don't even have a warehouse, so not a lot of stuff is getting lost anyway, so we're selling it ourselves. But that's something to keep in mind as well. So I hope I gave a very good overview. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments about this. I wanted now to jump into the next section of best practices and guardrails. So how are reimbursements processed? So again, I won't get into the technical of it, like where to go in Seller Central, what report to pull. They're always ever changing. Like I said earlier, if you guys remember, when I opened the Seller Central link, there was another one basically that on the top, there's a search section. You can just type in reimbursements there. You can go to Seller University, very good source of truth, and you can find it there. But again, I'm just going to go over it generally. There's a report that you want to look for. It's called the Inventory Ledger Report. This has the lifespan of your history. Another one, for example, lost inbound, you compare what you sent out to what Amazon received. It's a reconciliation. You find it in the shipments tab, and then you open it from there. You go to manage FB inventory shipments and you find it there basically. But that's generally how you can see. And then to see what Amazon actually reimbursed you, you go to transaction reports and you see all the reimbursements there. You see what they reimbursed you for and how much they reimbursed. You can also go to the reimbursement reports tab. So again, if you go to the search mention that I mentioned earlier, and then you just type in reimbursements returns, you can find it there as well. In addition to that, there's also programs and tools that help you with this. There's 2 types of programs we found. We now do most of it internally, but these are ones that we used in the past, and they've been more helpful for us. So basically, there's tools that help you project manage. So they help you track your lost inventory. They let you see it easily. Instead of downloading in Excel, you can see it on a website. You can write notes on what happened. And then there's another type of tools that go out there, and like I mentioned earlier, they fight Amazon on your behalf. They open 3, 4, 5 cases at a time to make sure you get it, and they take commission. So for the tools, I don't like often giving tool recommendations because tools come and go, and there's various needs for various ones. But I'm just going to mention a few that have been helpful for us, and we're not making actually anything off of this. So this is just ones that I've seen are helpful. So one of them we've seen is Balance Intelligence. It's not that well known actually, but they give a very good overview. It helps project management manage. It's like 50, 100 bucks a month, but it shows you all the reimbursements, where they're at, which ones you got money for, and it kind of helps you keep track of everything rather than downloading Excel, Google Sheets. Again, not needed. You can do it on Google Sheets. It just helps save you some time and some of that stuff there. And then for recovery and reimbursements, there's been so many out there. Unfortunately, there's ones that are also violate the TOS. I'm not going to share anything personally. Maybe if you find me on LinkedIn, send me a message there. I can maybe send you something on that. Or email me or email the company. Basically, go to strategy at Voadera and or sales at Voadera, and maybe send a question there, and we'll help you out. But basically, there's been so many that violated the terms of service, and they hurt the person's account because they do either filing bad claims. I'll get into that later. But this one, you just have to be more careful with, and there's a lot that come and go. So just be vigilant about it. Make sure you ask for reviews and most recent customers and some of that stuff. Now, for this section, I want to get into some best practices to keep in mind. Before I jump into best practices, I want to highlight some very big news with Amazon, that recent changes that happened. There's 2 significant ones. The first one, in November of last year, so 2024, they started being more proactive about giving reimbursements. If you mentioned as I was going through that, I told you some of them, Amazon is proactive, to be fair to them. They go there, you don't have to ask for it, they automatically give you the reimbursements. On the other hand, there's other ones that you obviously still have to fight for, as I mentioned earlier. And for the second piece of news, this was in March of this year, is this is a big one actually, that's very significant, is that Amazon stopped giving reimbursements based on, so before what they used to do is I think they used to take the average buy box, so now they call it featured offer price, take away fees, take away other stuff, and basically base it off potential revenue you could have got from an item. Now they give it based on your cost. So whatever your, that's why they have a new tab. It's called Manage Your Sourcing Cost, where you put in your cost of an item and they give you a reimbursement based on your costs. So it's significantly lower. So just as an example, if you're selling an item for $100, they take away the referral fee, 15%, FBA fees, let's say another $5, $10. So you'd get anywhere from like $70 to $80. And before, now, if that, they don't care what it was selling for, they care on your cost. So if your cost was $10, you're only getting $10 for it. Or if it was 30, you're only getting 30 for it. And then that's where the other best practices that I mentioned later are very relevant. Now I want to jump into a few guardrails to keep in mind as you're going through this. The first one is to not over abuse the system. So one thing to keep in mind is you can get blacklisted from reimbursements. I've seen it happen to people where they're abusing it and they're not following the terms of service. And even worse than getting blacklisted, I've seen people get suspended. And usually you're suspended if you submit fake deferred documentation. So that's obviously a big no-no. That's even fraud. You want to be very careful with that. But keep in mind, for some cases like the warehouse loss reimbursements claim, they have a soft limit of 5 cases per day. And once you go over that, they just start ignoring you. So understand what you're doing, understand what the terms of service is, the guardrails should be within. Also, when you're submitting the cases, submit it very clearly, have a template. While you're asking for the reimbursement, attach the documents below very clearly, walk them through it. Try, act as if you're writing the template for a third grader, just to make it very readable and understandable. The KPIs that you're tracking on a monthly basis will help guide the best practices I mentioned. So one of the things that we're looking at is percentage of reimbursement. So you can see obviously all the KPIs I mentioned earlier. There's also more detailed and granular ones. So the holy grail obviously is percentage of reimbursements revenue recovered. The first one that I showed on the left. That's your guiding benchmark. So you want to base it off of revenue. But within that, you want to see, for example, the percentage of cost retrieved. So if your average cost is $100 for all your products, let's just say to keep the math easy, and you're only retrieving $70 from Amazon, sometimes you're getting 50, sometimes you're getting 100, let's say it's 75 in the middle, that means it's 75%. Ideally, you want to be closer to 90%. You want to make sure you're submitting the invoices. You want to make sure the invoices are clear from the manufacturer, all that kind of stuff, so that you're getting, or the brand, so that you're getting all as much as possible, your entire cost from Amazon. Technically, it should be 100%. Amazon's not perfect. They're going to try to fight tooth and nail. It's their bottom line to make sure they give you as little as possible. You have to fight to get your full and basically your full amount. Another few of the KPIs is how much reimbursements are each member opening a day. So the claims per day, the reimbursement dollars per day. Again, just this department, we have 3 or 4 people working full time doing recovery and reimbursements on Amazon, other marketplaces. So it's very serious. It's time consuming, but you want to make sure that you're tracking it. And again, it's very much worth it once you're looking at the overall amount. As we mentioned earlier, we're doing $100 million a year. So 2 to 3% for us, approximately. So 2 to 3% for us is anywhere from 2 to 3 million. So it's astronomical. And we're doing this obviously on behalf of all of our partners as well. So we want to make sure that we're maximizing the retrieval rate from Amazon. The reverse logistics on this is huge because especially on Amazon, your margins can be very low. You want to make sure that you're spreading each dollar to get as much as possible. So fighting for the amount you can get, making sure that you're tracking it. And one thing to keep in mind as you're fighting for it, and the percentage of revenue, is it's a lagging indicator. Because, for example, let's say in Q4, your sales are high, right? Or they're higher than usual, assuming you sell usually for most of the product. But the issue is the reimbursement that you're doing, they're usually 90 days after that period. So for Q1, we're doing reimbursements for Q4 because Amazon, it takes it a while to admit the product was lost. And then even when it does admit the product was lost, right, we have to go back for a few weeks, sometimes even months, to get the amount that we want, to get it approved and then get the amount that we want. So there's 2 reasons that it's lagging. So that's why we look try to look at the percentage on a yearly basis. Like, what did we get this year? Rather than look at it on a week by week. So, for example, if you're in the first week of Q4 and your sales spiked because of Black Friday, Cyber Monday, but then your reimbursements, they're not going to spike accordingly. The reimbursements for that week, the products you shipped in, is going to show up maybe 15, 16, 17 weeks later. So keep that in mind as you're tracking your reimbursement percentage amount as well. So make sure that you have a template ready for your team to go through this every time. We have various templates. We have around 20 to 30 templates that we're using based on the scenario for our partners, based on the type of product. And that's all that my team makes. And they're continuously iterating them based on Amazon updating the policy. We have to reference the policy, all that kind of stuff. And like I said, you usually want to be between 2 and 3%. If you're 1%, if you're less than 2%, usually you're not getting all the money that you're owed. And if you're over 3%, then your operation is a mess. You're probably losing much more products than you should be, because that's the general benchmark for Amazon, 2 to 3%. It's kind of the industry standard. Currently, obviously, it could go up or down, but that's what we're seeing. So, as I said, reimbursements are a crucial part. You can kind of see how significant they are as I tossed around revenue numbers, how serious it could be, how much you have to work to get the reimbursements amount. So make sure you're staying on top of it. If you want to learn more about cost savings, actually, if you can find this video here, it talks about how we saved around 850 grand on supply chain and various parts of this. So I mentioned in that video that I'm going to talk about reverse logistics later. So this is a big part of that. But I talk about the earlier parts of supply chain in this video and how we can save money before that. Again, make sure to, if you like this comment, to continue seeing comment that we release based on the work we're doing. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn on notifications so you can get these as soon as we drop them. And if you're a brand doing over $1 million per year, come check us out at Voadera.com, book a strategy call, speak to an expert, and you're looking to grow, maybe we can help out.